Why $5,000 feels completely useless. Have you ever looked at your bank account, seen around $5,000 sitting there and thought, that's it? Like you worked for months, maybe years, cut back on eating out, skipped trips, said no to things you wanted, and now you're staring at $5,000 thinking, this doesn't actually change my life at all. You still have bills, you still have stress, you still feel behind. And honestly, it almost feels insulting that people online act like $5,000 is some kind of financial milestone when in real life it feels completely useless. If you've ever thought that, yeah, you're not alone. That feeling is way more common than people admit. But here's the thing. That feeling is exactly why $5,000 ends up being one of the most misunderstood and most powerful numbers in personal finance. My name is Donald, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, investing, and why smart people still feel broke. If you're someone who saves money but still feels like it's never enough to actually change anything, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we're breaking down why $5,000 feels useless, what most people completely misunderstand about it, and the exact moment when that same $5,000 suddenly flips a switch and starts changing everything. And no, this isn't motivational fluff. There's real math and real psychology behind this. The uncomfortable truth about $5,000. Look, here's the uncomfortable truth. $5,000 feels useless because, in isolation, it kind of is. Let's be honest about what it doesn't do. It doesn't replace your income. It doesn't eliminate financial anxiety. It doesn't buy freedom. It doesn't make you rich. And your brain knows this. Psychologically, humans judge money based on lifestyle impact, not absolute value. Researchers call this relative utility. Money only feels valuable when it meaningfully changes your day-to-day life, and $5,000 doesn't. According to the Federal Reserve, the median monthly expenses for a U.S. household are around $4,500. That means $5,000 represents roughly 1 month of normal life. So your brain goes, cool, 1 month, then what? That's why people feel discouraged right around this level. You've done the hard work of saving, but you haven't crossed the threshold where money starts working for you yet. And this is where most people mess up. Someone saves their first $5,000, they feel underwhelmed, they feel behind, and they feel like they're still stuck. So they either spend it, invest it impulsively, or stop taking saving seriously altogether because it feels pointless. They look at social media and see people talking about 6-figure portfolios, passive income streams, and early retirement. Meanwhile, they're sitting on $5,000 that couldn't even cover 2 months of rent in most major cities. The gap between where they are and where they think they should be feels insurmountable. But here's what nobody tells you about that feeling of inadequacy. It's actually a sign you're at the most critical junction in your entire financial journey. Because the people who push through this exact moment, who keep going despite the feeling that nothing is happening, those are the people who end up winning in the long run. The ones who quit here, they stay stuck forever, constantly restarting from zero, always wondering why wealth seems to come so easily to everyone else. What $5,000 actually represents. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but $5,000 really is small. What am I actually supposed to do with it? This is where it gets really interesting. $5,000 isn't powerful because of what it buys. It's powerful because of what it enables. Here's what most people don't realize. The first $5,000 isn't about returns. It's about positioning. Before $5,000, you're financially reactive. Every unexpected expense feels like an emergency. A car repair, a medical bill, a job disruption. It immediately turns into stress, debt, or panic. You're making decisions from a place of desperation, not strategy. You take the first job offer you get because you can't afford to wait for a better one. You skip necessary medical appointments because you're afraid of the bill. You stay in situations that aren't good for you because leaving feels financially impossible. After $5,000, something subtle changes. You're not rich, but you're no longer fragile. That buffer gives you time to think instead of react, the ability to say no to bad decisions, and the confidence to plan longer term. When your car breaks down, you're annoyed, not terrified. When an opportunity requires an upfront investment, you can actually consider it instead of automatically dismissing it. When your boss crosses a line, you have just enough cushion to start looking for something better without panic. Psychologists call this a reduction in scarcity mindset. Studies show financial stress can reduce cognitive performance by the equivalent of losing more than 10 IQ points. Think about that. When you're constantly worried about money, you're literally operating with diminished mental capacity. You make worse decisions, miss opportunities, and struggle to think strategically about your future. So $5,000 doesn't change your net worth much, but it changes how your brain functions. And that's huge. This is why people who grow up with money often seem to make better financial decisions. It's not that they're smarter or more disciplined. It's that they've never had to operate under the cognitive burden of financial scarcity. They can think clearly, plan long-term, and take calculated risks because their brain isn't constantly screaming about immediate survival. Your first $5,000 gives you a tiny taste of that freedom. And once you experience it, you'll do almost anything to protect it and grow it. The math nobody shows you? Now, let's talk math, because this is where people get it wrong. People dismiss $5,000 because they think in terms of immediate impact instead of trajectory. Let's say you invest $5,000 in a broad market index earning a conservative 8% per year. In 10 years, that's roughly $10,800. In 20 years, around $23,000. In 30 years, just over $50,000. On its own, that's nice, but not life-changing. But here's the key insight. Almost nobody stops at $5,000. That first $5,000 proves something to yourself. I can save. I can delay gratification. I can build momentum. And momentum is what actually builds wealth. Think about it like pushing a car. The hardest part isn't keeping it moving. It's getting it to move at all. Money works the same way. The first $5,000 represents the first time discipline beats convenience, the first time saving becomes part of your identity. Behavioral economists call this identity-based reinforcement. Once you start seeing yourself as someone who saves and invests, your future behavior becomes easier. You make different choices automatically because they align with who you now believe you are. Let me give you a real example of how this plays out. When you're at zero savings, spending $100 on something frivolous feels normal. There's no loss, just instant gratification. But once you hit $5,000, that same $100 purchase suddenly feels different. You're not just spending money, you're moving backward from a goal you worked hard to achieve. That psychological shift is incredibly powerful. It's why the next $5,000 comes faster, and the next $10,000 faster than that. The power of consistency over time. Now here's the moment people don't see coming. $5,000 feels useless until it's combined with consistency. Let's say instead of obsessing over returns, you focus on adding $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. Now let's run the real numbers. Year 1, you're at about $11,000. Still doesn't feel impressive. Year 2, you're approaching $18,000. Getting more interesting. Year 3, you're at $26,000. Now you're starting to feel something. Year 4, $35,000. Year 5, you're approaching $46,000. By this point, the interest you're earning in a year is more than what many people save in total. In 10 years, assuming that 8% return and consistent $500 monthly contributions, you're past $110,000, and suddenly, emergencies stop feeling like disasters. Investing stops feeling scary. Time starts working for you instead of against you. That's when people look back and say, wow, everything really did change. But it didn't change all at once. It changed because of that first, boring, unimpressive $5,000. That foundation is what made everything else possible. And here's what really blows people's minds when they finally understand it. The difference between someone who retires comfortably and someone who struggles isn't usually income. It's when they started and whether they stayed consistent. Someone who starts saving $500 a month at age 25 will have dramatically more at retirement than someone who starts saving $1,000 a month at age 40, even though the second person is saving twice as much. Time in the market beats timing the market, and it beats higher contribution amounts that start late. The real obstacles nobody talks about. Now, you might be thinking, what about inflation, student loans, or the cost of living? All fair points. $5,000 won't fix a broken system. It won't solve everything, and I'm not here to pretend that saving is equally easy for everyone, because it's not. Someone making minimum wage with kids to feed faces a completely different reality than someone making six figures with no dependents. But waiting for perfect conditions is the fastest way to stay stuck. The person who says, "I'll start saving when I make more money," usually finds that when they make more money, their expenses have increased to match it. The person who says, "I'll invest when the market is less volatile," never invests because the market is always volatile. The person who says, "I'll focus on this after I pay off my debt," often finds new debt replacing old debt in an endless cycle. Progress in personal finance is almost always non-linear. It feels pointless until it doesn't. You save for months and feel like you're getting nowhere. Then suddenly you realize you haven't worried about an unexpected expense in a year. You've been investing consistently without even thinking about it. You're making financial decisions from a place of strategy instead of desperation, and you can't even pinpoint exactly when the shift happened. It just did. This is also why comparing yourself to others is so toxic for your financial health. You're comparing your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 20. You're comparing your foundation phase to someone else's growth phase, and it makes you feel like you're failing when you're actually doing exactly what you should be doing. What you should actually do with $5,000. So what should you actually do with $5,000? First, keep a solid emergency buffer. This isn't about returns, it's about stability. Most financial experts recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses, but honestly, even 1 month gives you breathing room you didn't have before. Keep this money somewhere safe and accessible. A high-yield savings account works great. This money isn't meant to grow, it's meant to protect you. Second, automate your savings and investments so willpower isn't part of the equation. Set up automatic transfers the day after your paycheck hits. Make it so you never even see the money in your checking account. Because here's the truth about willpower. It's finite and unreliable. The people who succeed with money aren't more disciplined than you. They've just built systems that remove the need for constant discipline. Third, invest boringly broad index funds. Long-term thinking, no gambling. I know it's tempting to look at crypto, meme stocks, or whatever the latest trend is, but the vast majority of wealth is built slowly through boring, consistent investing in diversified assets. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, recommends that most people just invest in low-cost index funds and forget about it. If that's good enough for him, it's probably good enough for us. Fourth, track progress quarterly, not daily. Daily checking feeds anxiety, not discipline. The market goes up and down constantly. Your account balance will fluctuate. If you're checking it every day, you'll make emotional decisions that hurt you long term. Check in once per quarter. Make sure you're staying consistent, and then go live your life. And most importantly, treat $5,000 as the foundation, not the finish line. This is where your wealth starts, not where it ends. Every wealthy person you've ever heard of went through this exact phase. They had a moment where they looked at their account and thought, "This isn't enough." The difference is they kept going anyway. The identity shift that changes everything. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. The real value of reaching $5,000 isn't financial, it's psychological. You've proven to yourself that you can do something that most people never do. According to various studies, somewhere between 40 to 60% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency expense without going into debt. You're not just ahead of where you were, you're ahead of where most people ever get. That shift in identity is everything. You're no longer someone who wants to save money, you're someone who does save money. You're not someone who hopes to invest someday, you're an investor. That might sound like semantics, but it fundamentally changes how you move through the world and make decisions. When you see yourself as a saver and investor, you start noticing opportunities others miss. You start asking different questions. You start surrounding yourself with people who think about money the way you do. You start consuming different content, learning different skills, and building different habits. And all of that compounds, just like your money does. The final truth. Nobody becomes wealthy because of a single number. People become wealthy because they stop quitting during the phase where progress feels invisible. $5,000 feels useless because it's the hardest money you'll ever save. It's the money you saved when saving felt pointless. It's the money you protected when spending it would have felt so much better. It's the money that taught you that you're capable of more than you thought. After that, things don't get easy, but they get clearer. And clarity is what compounds. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop wondering if it's worth it. You know it is because you've already done the hardest part. Every dollar you save from here forward is building on a foundation that can't be shaken because you built it yourself when nobody was watching and nobody cared. If you're sitting around $5,000 right now and feeling discouraged, understand this: you're not behind. You're early. You're at the exact spot where most people quit, which means you're about to pass them. You've already done the part most people never do. Now your only job is to keep going. The person you'll be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, is going to look back at this moment and thank you for not giving up, for pushing through when it felt pointless, for trusting the process when you couldn't see the results yet. That future version of you, the one with options and security and peace of mind, is counting on the decision you make right now. If this video helped reframe how you think about money, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments how close you are to your first $5,000 or your next one. Because this is how real wealth is built. Quietly, boringly, and over time. Let's build it together.